Red course ready. Blue course ready.
Yeah!
Racers ready. Viewers ready.
Chris Carson. With last week's win, he proved he's the best of a new breed of bump skier. Scott Rawls, the former top pro, returned to competition after a 1.5-year layoff and showed he still has what it takes. Cameron Boyle, last year's champ, was upset last week by Rawls. At Vail, he's out for revenge. The World Pro Mogul Tour, brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Toyota, I love what you do for me. It's a weekly quest for King of the Mountain. Top athletes vying for skiing supremacy on a snow-covered minefield, challenging the steepest slopes, bone-jarring bumps, and each other in a head-to-head duel. It's the World Pro Mogul Tour. The stunning backdrop of the sun-splashed, snow-covered Gore Range Wilderness, home to America's #1 resort, Vail, Colorado. And the site for today's Miller Genuine Draft Cup, the 6th stop on the 1991 World Pro Mogul Tour. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mid-Vail. I'm Rod Elisha, and today's event going to be an exciting one. Sandy Santucci is on assignment. Joining me for color commentary is the executive director of the World Pro Mogul Tour, Kirk Rawls. And Kirk, an incredible challenge for our skiers today.
These competitors have a tough chore ahead of them. When they come out of the start of this race, they drop literally into an elevator shaft. When they come out of that elevator shaft, they're into Volkswagen-sized bumps. And this course is not forgiving at all. I look for a lot of falls coming out of the start. I look for a very strong technical skier to win here today.
Who do you pick as the favorites for today?
Well, I'd have to go with two gentlemen on today's tour. One of them would be Cameron Boyle from Squaw Valley. He's been skiing great. He had a great Evian Summit Series. And no favoritism on this one, but I have to go with my brother Scott Rawls. He has a great track record here on Lookmaw, and I look for him to do really well today.
Well, we'll see who is crowned champion, who has the mogul mastery here on the world-famous Lookmaw Run at Vail when we come back for the Miller Genuine Draft Cup event. Welcome back to a picture-perfect day in the Colorado Rockies. It's the Miller Genuine Draft Cup event, the 6th stop of the 1991 World Pro Mogul Tour. We're down to our final 8 skiers. First up in the round of 8, Michael Nash, a relative newcomer to the tour, versus Cameron Boyle, the defending tour champ and a member of the Memorex Spider team. Earlier this afternoon, a good challenge for Cameron with Greg Bright.
They both came out of the start in great fashion here, came off that top steep section. But once Cameron gets into his fall line and the tight turns that he's very capable of, there's really no stopping him. He sets up here, nice spread twister, 3 more turns, he's into a daffy twister. That's what wins, that's why he's the tour champion.
Get ready for a fabulous challenge here in the round of 8. Our first 2 competitors, Michael Nash from Steamboat Springs, Colorado on the red course, and Cameron Hollywood Boyle, the current overall points leader on the blue course. Boyle having a magnificent afternoon, and you can see that Michael Nash is outmanned immediately. Coming out of that steep top part, he went down. Cameron Boyle just has to put together another standard Boyle run. A nice daffy twister, and Michael Nash goes out when he crosses the line. Cameron Boyle carries the speed across the line and into the round of 4. Our next duel in the round of 8 pits Todd Ferguson, a round of 8 finalist in his first event, versus last week's winner, Chris Carson, a member of the White Stag Valio team. And Ferguson got a break in the round of 16 when veteran tour member Dean the Machine Murphy DQ'd right there across the center line. He's out.
Uncharacteristic for Dean, he came out of the start, got back a little bit on his skis right here, and just went over the center line. He's out for the rest of the day.
And now back to live action. And they're out of the gates. Both of them jump down that mine shaft and carry great speed. Carson have a little bit of trouble. Ferguson doing okay. Now is the critical part in the middle section where you really have to put together some good technical turns. A nice daffy twister by Carson, A nice one by Ferguson. Carson with a nice air down at the bottom, but it's going to be a tough call. Todd Ferguson with a determined look on his face. They give it to red course, and Todd Ferguson with another upset knocks Chris Carson out.
This is a huge upset here. Chris Carson, who won last week at Keystone at the Evian Summit Challenge, had a really tough time right here. He got back on his skis. He had a big GS turn right in the middle of it, and he just couldn't get it back. When you come off at that much speed going into those deep bumps, it's very tough to get back on track. Todd, on the other hand, had a really, really solid run. Right from the start, he stayed right in his line, very quick turns, his knees pumped all the way through, and in this dual format competition, anything can happen, and Todd has been proving it all day long. He continues on to the round of 4, and Chris Carson is going to have to sit and watch and see what happens today.
Our next two combatants in the round of 8 know each other well. Scott Harrington, a former U.S. freestyle amateur and a member of the World Cup team, versus a former teammate, Robert Airi, now of the Memorex Spider Pro team.
Red course ready.
Our next two
Blue
competitors,
course ready.
Scott Skyman
Race is
Harrington
ready.
from Killington, Vermont on the red course versus Robert Airi from Winter Park, Colorado on the blue. Look at Harrington catch massive air coming out of the start gate. He goes down, but he's back up. It's going to be a tough one for him to make up some time and speed. He's also got to throw a dominating air. Airi with a daffy spread. Harrington with a nice spread at the bottom, but Airi really had some help when Harrington went down early, and I think Harrington knows it. Robert Airi once again is going to move in to our final 4 competitors. As the judges concur, Airi had the superior run.
Well, the steep upper face of Lookma claimed another victim right here. Scott Harrington, you can see, has trouble coming right out of the gate, gets back, and falls over on his back. He did do one very smart thing here, though. He got right back up. In a dual format, anything can happen, and he pushed Robert all the way to the bottom.
Our final duel in the round of 8 still to come. We'll return for the Miller Genuine Draft Cup from Vail. The large throng of spectators enjoying the sunshine and the spectacle of professional bump skiers going one-on-one for the 6th stop of the World Pro Mogul Tour, the Miller Genuine Draft Cup. And it's time for our final duel in the round of 8. Pete Megadeth Molen matches up versus Scott Rawls. Earlier, Rawls involved in a nip and tuck battle with Frenchman Marc Dufour.
This was a close battle right from the start. You can see Scott just hugging that center line. He's just spraying snow over into Mark's course. Mark actually changes his line and moves over to the second line coming down. Scott just stays right next to it, though. Big spread, twister spread right here. Mark, there was a nice twister spread as well. This actually was a very tough call for the judges. I think they went with the speed and with Scott Rawls.
And now back to live action. Pete Megadeth Molen versus Scott Banana Man Rawls. Megadeth gets out early on the speed lead in the red course, but Scott Rawls with some beautiful turns on an inside line. Air may be a deciding factor in this one. Both of them really having a shining run. A nice double daffy by Pete Megadeth Molen. Rawls with a little twister down at the bottom to catch a second air. Molen, an upset winner earlier. He's fired up. Let's see how they score this one. The judges put their cards up, and it's blue course winner Scott Rawls edges Pete Megadeth Molen.
I think what the judges were looking at that were the consistent turns of Scott. Scott had a great run, came straight down the fall line. It was a close duel. I think Pete Molen, he definitely had the speed, but Scott's turns really won that for him. You could see his consistent turns and how smooth he was all the way down. Consistency, and that's what he did.
And so our semifinalists in the Miller Genuine Draft Cup, Cameron Boyle versus Todd Ferguson, and Robert Airi will challenge Scott Rawls. Well, there's only one thing better than a sunshiny day at America's #1 resort. That, of course, a powder day. Earlier this week, when the Toyota Previa of the Sun Ice Pro Team pulled up at their favorite mountain, there's more than just a draw of world-famous champagne powder and back bowls. Stacy Schrader, Eric Sharmer, Jam and Jim Getton, and Peter Cope. It's a chance to share some local mountain secrets and catch some airtime. At the end of the season, the overall individual champion wins this Toyota 4Runner. Toyota, I love what you do for me. As for the pro team standings, Memorex Spider way out front, White Stag Vallejo at 180 points in second, and Ocean Pacific third. We'll be back with the semifinals from the famous Lookma Run at Vail in just a moment. We're ready to go with our final 4 skiers. Our top points getter so far in the Grand Prix circuit, Cameron Hollywood Boyle, will be on the red course to the far side, and Todd Ferguson, the dark horse of dark horse candidates, will be on the blue. They are set and staged. Ferguson may not know what he's up against here with Cameron Boyle, and he doesn't show it early on, dropping into the mine shaft very quickly. Boyle looks like he has a little trouble, really trying to press the speed. The very imperative part of the course is right here in the middle section. Boyle with a spread twister, then a nice triple air, and Todd Ferguson scoots across the line and gets the speed points, but that's going to be a tough call. I believe Boyle, with the difficulty in the air, may have the edge there. He also had a speed lead there early, and Cameron Boyle is our winner. And Kirk, how would you score that one?
Well, let's take a look at both of these skiers. Todd Ferguson out of the gate, he had a really strong section here at the top part of the course, probably one of the best coming off of that of today, actually. Cameron Boyle, on the other hand, he had a little bit of problem right out of the gate. He had 2 solid turns, and then he got back a little bit right here. His hand goes back, he misses a turn, but the one thing about Cameron Boyle right here, he hops right back into his line. Look at how fluid he is, how quiet his upper body is, and when Cameron starts doing that, it's tough to get it back together. He sets up down here for his 2 airs, a big spread twister, lands, and has 2 more turns, goes into a daffy twister. Very strong run at the bottom for Cameron. And this actually is where Todd lost it. He set his skis sideways right here. He actually had Cameron beat coming down, but he sets him sideways, and it really took away from his run. He also only threw 1 air.
Robert Aguirre from Winter Park, Colorado. In his spare time, he is a freestyle coach. He'll be taking on Scott Rawls. These are our final 2 competitors in the round of 4. The winner will go on to face Cameron Hollywood Boyle.
Here we go. Red course ready. Blue course ready. Racers ready.
And they're out of the gates and on course. That tough, steep section may take its toll on one of these skiers. They met last week at Keystone with Aguirre coming out on top, and right now he has a speed lead and looks to be having a very fine run. Coming up on his air, a nice double twister by Aguirre. Rawls with a nice one. A splitster by Aguirre, a twister by Rawls at the bottom. A tough call for the judges. Great lines, great turns, great air by both skiers. A very, very hard call for our judges. And they score it. Blue course winner, and Scott Rawls has beaten Robert Aguirre.
You can really see right here when Scott comes out of the gate how hard that Lookma top section is. He's really setting his edges, carving his skis and staying right on top of them. He gets down into the middle section right here, and these guys, this is what dueling is all about. They're turn for turn. Coming down into their first airs, Scott throws a spread, twister, spread, and Robert throws a double twister. This was one of the closest, toughest runs to judge of the day, and it came down to the speed.
So in the finals, it's Scott Rawls versus Cameron Boyle, the Miller Genuine Draft Cup from Vail, Colorado. All right, ready to go with our finals. Cameron Hollywood Boyle will be on the blue course. Again, he's the overall Grand Prix leader thus far. He's had some tough challenges throughout the afternoon today, and he'll be going against Scott Rawls. Scott Rawls also has had some tough contests today.
Red course ready. Blue course ready. Racers ready.
And they get down on that face. Scott Rawls has a little bit of trouble early on, and he gets close to that center line. Cameron Hollywood Boyle choosing the inside line. The crowd is going crazy. Cameron Boyle with a daffy twister. Boyle goes down. Rawls gets his air, goes across the line, and Scott Rawls is our champion.
You can see right out of the gate here, Scott gets out a little bit in front of Cameron, and Cameron tried to catch him. He carried too much speed off of that top section. Coming into this air right here, you can tell he's a little bit out of sync, trying to set up for this. He throws a daffy twister, comes down, and he lands on his outside edge. He goes straight down, and just rolls. Very rarely do you see that from Cameron.
Well, very rare for Cameron indeed, and it was this year's most spectacular crash. It wins this week's honors from Miller Genuine Draft for going for the cold. And now to Kirk and Scott Rawls in the finish area.
Thanks, Rod. Well, bro, you didn't prove me wrong. You had a great day. I called it earlier today that you and Cameron would be going for it. Tell me a little bit about skiing against Cameron again.
It's great skiing against Cameron. Cameron is a very hot skier, and you have to push it to the limit every time you ski against him, and that's kind of what I did, and it paid off for me again today.
Well, last week in the round of 16, we called it an upset. I guess you proved us wrong, huh?
I think I did, probably. It was I was a little more prepared for this week. It's really nice to be back at Vail. It's nice to have all the sponsorship of Miller and everything. It was a great event today.
Good. You gonna split the money with me since you skied with me for 25 years for free?
Seems like the fair thing. Or I'm gonna buy a lot of babysitting with it, one or the other.
All right, that's it from here.
Well, the Northwest Airlines Big Air of the Week goes to this inventive move from Chris Carson, a nice double back scratcher. And he wasn't done yet. He decided to top it off with a nice big spread. As for the Miller Genuine Draft Cup final standings, Scott Rawls in first, Cameron Boyle second, and Robert Aguirre outskied Todd Ferguson for third and fourth place. And the overall Grand Prix standings with the winner to get a Toyota 4Runner, Cameron Boyle way out in front, Robert Aguirre now in second, and Dave Hill dropped back to third.
As a former competitor on the World Pro Mogul Tour, I know the challenges of Lukma are not easily learned. And this week, some pupils soared into new heights, and others didn't quite make the grade.
That does it for the Miller Genuine Draft Cup here at Vail, Colorado, and a great event it was.
Yes, it was, Rod. Next week, we're headed to Telluride, Colorado for one of the toughest runs on all of this tour. It's called the Plunge, and we'll be there next week.
We'll see you at Telluride. For Kirk Rawls, I'm Ron Elisha. So long, everybody.